Lightning split the sky like a jagged scar, illuminating the Texas ranch as rain lashed John Parker's face, his Stetson hat sagging under the downpour. He stood in the east pasture, boots sinking into mud, wrestling a thrashing cow from a flooded ditch, its panicked bellows drowned by the storm's roar. Thunder crashed, shaking the earth, and he cursed as the rope slipped, slicing his palm. It was 3:14 p.m., the day gone dark as night, and the tempest had hit without warning, hours of wind and water tearing at his 200-acre spread. Out here, nature didn't care about deeds or threats, but John did. This was his land, and he'd be damned if he lost it to a flood or anything else. The storm had rolled in at noon, a gray wall swallowing the sun, the lake swelling beyond its banks. He'd been in the barn, oiling his rifle after last night's poacher chase, when the first gusts rattled the walls. The radio crackled a warning, flash floods, high winds, but he'd ignored it, riding out to check the herd. Now, with water rising fast, he fought to save what he could. The cow kicked free, staggering to higher ground, and John wiped blood from his hand, the sting sharp against the cold. He scanned the pasture, counting shadows through the rain. 43 head left, 2 still missing. He'd find them or die trying. He saddled Dusty, the mare's coat slick with wet, and rode toward the lake, the wind howling like a banshee. The water churned, waves slapping the shore, and he spotted a calf stranded on a shrinking island of grass, its bleats faint over the gale. He dismounted, tying Dusty to a post, and waded in, the current tugging at his knees, then his thighs. Mud sucked at his boots, the cold biting deep, but he reached the calf, hoisting its trembling weight onto his shoulders. Lightning flashed again, blinding him, and thunder boomed as he slogged back, collapsing with it on the bank. "Stay put," he rasped, tying it beside Dusty, his breath steaming in the downpour. The storm didn't relent, rain sheeting sideways as he rode the fence line, checking for breaks. The east wire sagged, posts leaning from the wind, and he cursed again, hours of work washed away. He dismounted, grabbing a hammer from his saddlebag, and pounded a post upright, the metal ringing against the storm's fury. That's when he saw it. A flicker of light across the lake, not lightning, but headlights steady and deliberate. Someone was out there, watching through the chaos. John froze, hammer mid-swing, his gut twisting. Caleb? Wheeler? Or the kids, circling like vultures? He dropped the tool, snatched his rifle, and aimed into the dark, rain blurring his scope. The lights blinked out, leaving only the storm's roar. He rode back, soaked to the bone, and tethered Dusty in the barn, her sides heaving. Inside the house, water dripped from his jacket, pooling on the floorboards as he lit a lantern, the power long gone. He peeled off his hat, shaking it out, and sank into a chair, the deeds drawer mocking him from across the room. The storm battered the windows, glass rattling, and he poured a bourbon, the burn steadying his hands. A knock thudded soft, then urgent, and he grabbed the rifle, stalking to the door. Mary Ellen Carter stood there, drenched, her gray mare tethered under the eaves. Her braid clung to her neck, rain streaking her face, but her eyes blazed with purpose. "John, you all right?" she shouted over the wind, stepping in as he waved her inside. "Barely," he grunted, shutting the door against the gale. "Herd scattered. Lake's flooding. You lost a shed," she said, shedding her coat. "Came to check on you. Saw your light." She handed him a thermos, hot coffee, and he took it, their fingers brushing, a spark cutting through the cold. "Appreciate it," he said, pouring them both a cup. "Caught someone watching from the lake. Headlights in the storm." Her face hardened. "Wheeler's kin, bet my life. They're waiting for you to break." He nodded, sipping the coffee, its heat a lifeline. "Kids too. That lawsuit's coming fast. Deed's got a flaw I can't fix yet." She sat beside him, close enough to feel her warmth. "You'll fight it. You always do." Her hand rested on his arm, steadying him, and the air shifted, quiet amid the storm, heavy with what they hadn't said since the fire. A crash outside broke the moment. Wood splintering, metal screeching. John bolted up, rifle in hand, and yanked the door open. The barn side had caved, a beam snapped by the wind. Dusty rearing inside. He ran out, Mary Ellen behind, the rain blinding as they wrestled the mare free, her hooves slipping in the mud. They dragged her to the porch, tying her tight. And John cursed the sky, his voice lost in the thunder. Back inside, soaked and shaking, they collapsed by the lantern, breathless. "This place'll kill me," he muttered, half laughing, half serious. "Not yet," she said, her smile faint but fierce. "Not while I'm here." Dawn crept in, gray and sodden, the storm easing to a drizzle. John rode out with Mary Ellen, checking the damage. Fences down, pasture flooded, 2 cows drowned by the lake. They worked in silence, hauling debris, her strength matching his despite the exhaustion. Midday brought a new sound, tires on wet gravel. Jake's truck rolled up, Sarah and Matt climbing out, faces grim but less hostile. "Dad," Jake said, voice tight. "Saw the flood from the road. You okay?" John straightened, mud-caked, rifle slung over his shoulder. "Alive. Hurts hit hard, too gone." Sarah stepped forward, hesitant. "We're not here to fight. Just worried." Matt nodded, hands in pockets. "Storm's bad. Thought you'd need help." John's chest tightened, suspicion warring with relief. "Help's welcome. But the lawsuit?" Jake's jaw clenched. "Still stands. This don't change that." Mary Ellen bristled. But John waved her off. "Fair enough. Grab a shovel, work first." They pitched in, a tense truce, Jake hauling wire, Sarah clearing branches, Matt shoring up the barn. Hours passed, the sun breaking through, steam rising from the wet earth. John watched them, his kids' hands dirty for once, and felt a flicker of something. Hope, maybe buried deep. Dusk fell, the lake calm but swollen, when a new truck arrived. Tom Carter, Mary Ellen's son, sober this time, his face a mask of guilt. "Ma," he said, climbing out. "Heard about the storm. Came to help." She eyed him wary. "You sure?" He nodded, glancing at John. "Owe you an apology, Parker. Last night, I was drunk, stupid." John studied him, then extended a hand. "Accepted. Grab a rope, calves stuck by the ridge." Tom joined the effort, pulling the calf free with Jake, the group working late into the night. The storm's wreckage was tamed, the herd secured. But as they left, Jake's truck first, then Tom's, John sat on the porch, rifle across his lap, Mary Ellen beside him. The headlights from the storm lingered in his mind. Wheeler's shadow, uncaught. The truce with his kids was fragile, Tom's peace uncertain. He'd beaten the flood, but the real tempest loomed. Across the lake, a light flickered, then vanished. John gripped the rifle tighter, ready for what came next.